When I first encountered the Class 450 from Bachmann, I was interested in the contemporary livery and the availability of a weathered finish. The asking price, however, just didn't make sense, and I passed on it. With recent discounting, the price of this EMU is now a lot more competitive, so is it worth a second look? Let's find out. Hi, thanks for joining today's review. So first off, we're going to do a regular unboxing. Then we're going to take a close-up view, including a 360 view of this EMU. We'll follow that with a running session with some commentary, and then we'll do a summary and then a final scoring and recommendation. I'm also going to do a section at the end to compare the Class 450 against the Class 350, which I did review last year, and so we'll look at both of those side by side. Okay, let's get into the review. Okay, let's go to the unboxing. So we're looking at the Class 450 from Bachmann, and this is actually the weathered version. And let's take a look at it there. It's the 31041, which is in the Southwest Trains livery, and this is, as I said, the weather version. So I picked this up at a reduced price, I suppose, from Rails. I have a Class 350, very pleased with that. Which is, I suppose, a cousin of this. So a little bit of history on this particular EMU. It runs off the third rail, but it can be converted for overhead operation as well, but this is the way it was introduced. It got into service in 2003 in the southwest region. It does have a maximum speed of 100 miles per hour, and so I'm expecting pretty good things from this model from a speed perspective. Certainly the Class 350 from Bachmann that I have is very, very fast, that's for sure, and very powerful. So we'll see how this performs relative to that. A lot of these have been built, like 127 of these were ordered by Southwest Trains to replace their existing sort of out-of-date rolling stock, and so there's a lot of these out there. You'll see them running on the railways today, very distinctive, and so this is very much a contemporary model from that perspective, and one of the reasons I was interested in it. I'm also interested in the weathering effect, so I'm actually quite keen to see how the weathering plays out with this particular locomotive, and our EMU, I should say. So we'll be taking a look at that as we go. It is available in a pristine livery as well, so if that's your preference. So let's start taking this guy out of the box. So it comes with 4 cars. It's a 4-car DMU set. Okay, so we've got that guy out of the box. So let's take a look first at the owner's manual that you get with this. This talks about the detailing kit that you get with it. So that will be, there it is, must be the main coach. So we'll take a look at that in a minute. You can actually set it up for a kind of a fixed display, and there's detailing you can add for that only works in that type of environment. I don't think I'll be using that. Goes through the usual things in terms of removing the body, if you want to add passengers, for example, that kind of thing. And let's just take a look through here, any other good information that we have. So yeah, adding a DCC decoder, and so you can do that underneath, and we might take a bit of a look at it. I am going to add DCC to this before we do the running session. I don't have a sound option for it, so we'll be running this one with just plain DCC, and we'll see how she goes in that environment. Okay, so that's interesting stuff. So let's take a look at these cars, what we have in front of us here. This guy seems the heaviest, so I would suspect this is the power car, and it has the detailing kit as well, so I'm expecting that to be the case. So let's just take him out. Now we will take a much closer look at this. We'll do a full 360 on it, but this is really just to get a first look. So we've got various bits and pieces in here. We've got the couplers there with the metal connections for the lighting, so that's quite important to make sure the lighting goes from coach to coach. So it does have coach lighting. Okay, this is looking really nice. Let's take this guy out and take a closer look. Okay, so here we go. I do like that weathering, actually. Very nice weathering effect on the bogie and a splatter effect on the underside of the coach there, so that does look really nice. And actually this livery looks really nice, and there's lots of nice detail in here. As I said, we will take a closer look later on. You can see here the space to do an overhead power conversion, so that's kind of built in there. So this is in real life running off a third rail on the track, DC rail, and there's nice Southwest trains there. So nice little stickers. You can probably just see them on the windows, and I can see the kind of over the coach lighting there underneath. I can just about see that. We've got tinted windows, obviously. We don't have any passengers. Might look at adding a few of those over time. But really nice, actually. A really nice livery, and I do like the weathering. I think the weathering hits the mark for me, and that's one of the reasons I got this set. So you can see the area here for the DCC edition and a speaker. We'll be just putting in the decoder. I won't be adding a speaker at this time. But that looks really, really good, I have to say. So let's get one of the end coaches, and then we'll jump to the 360 view. So this looks like one of the end coaches here. Much, much lighter. Oh, well, really much lighter. So comparison in terms of that. So let's take a look at this guy. Oh wow, look at that. Look at that for the livery. Wow. So very distinctive. As I say, you do see lots of these. There is lighting on this at the front as well, so there's directional lighting as well as the cab lighting. So we should get a look at that when we see it. The door detail is really nice, so we'll see that a little bit more in the close-ups. And again, the underbody weathering effect and the splattering effect underneath there. I think for me it's just about right. It's not too light, it's not too heavy. It kind of hits the mark in terms of the right effect there. So this looks really good. No, this is a very light. This is actually quite light. It's lighter than a standard coach from Bachmann. So we'll see how that fares out. You can see this power pickup here, and that's because of the lighting in each of the coaches. So really, really nice looking livery, I must say. Southwest trains, exquisite. Yeah, let's take a closer look. This looks really, really promising. Looking forward to looking at this in a bit more detail and then getting this out for a running session. Okay, let's go to the next part of this review. So now we're going to take a closer look at one of the end cars, and you can see the very distinctive livery there, the tinted windows and the underbody weathering, and I think that weathering actually looks pretty good. I was looking for this. This is one of the things I did want when I purchased this unit, and I think that weathering level there is just about right. It's a good level. It's realistic in terms of the underbody, but yet having a pretty clean overbody. I think the detail there around the door is very good paint registration, the nice tinted windows and the red seats inside. And really, I'd say a good level of underbody detail there, all of it nicely weathered. And now we're getting to the actual front end. And again, you can see the very distinctive paintwork there at the front of these 450s in this livery. And again, very nice detail around the bogie and a very nice weathering effect there. Next, we're going to take one of the middle cars, and again, same sort of livery and same sort of weathering. A little bit less detail in the underbody there, but that's in keeping with the prototype. And again, those nice stickers on the windows, good level of overall detail, a nice quality finish, nice quality look to these coaches, and a nice quality feel to them. And I actually think this livery, I do have a preference to it over the livery I have with the 350, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on. Okay, now we're going to take a 360 degree view of one of the end cars and one of the middle cars. And the middle car here is actually showing the spare space for the pantograph. The Class 450s are capable of being upgraded to take the overhead power supply, and that's reflected here in the kind of vacant space there on the roof, which would be filled by a pantograph. And you'll see that that's occupied by a pantograph on a Class 350, for example. Again, you see the very nice livery and the nice weathering effect, I think, along the bottom. And the upper livery does have a kind of, I suppose, an overall matte finish in keeping with the kind of weathering, but it isn't. It doesn't really take away, I think, from the livery in any way. That's quite nice looking, and you can see the weathering at the end pieces as well there. And I think a nice overall roof finish and an overall look to these. I think these do look quite representative of the real-life EMUs that you do see on the railways today. Okay, let's go to the next section of the review. So now we're going to get into the running session. So we're kicking off here. We're just running under DC, or DCC I should say. I don't have sound installed in this, though I actually think, and you'll see it through the running session, that the kind of sounds that this makes on the track, it does give it quite a kind of realistic, even though you don't have any DCC sound, it does give you a pretty good sound effect while it is running. I have run this over DC, and it's pretty flawless over DC, and there's no problems at all. Very much the same as the experience I would have had with the Class 350, and its running performance really does echo that of the Class 350. So going at a reasonably slow speed here, and very steady, very smooth, as you can see, and has a kind of a rock solid feel when you look at it visually on the track. There's no kind of shaking of the carriages or anything like that. Very solid feel. Going up to a slightly medium speed now, and we'll give you a few more views of this as we go around at this speed. I didn't do a lot of tuning on the DCC decoder, so I kind of did a pretty basic linear scale on it, but obviously you can start playing with that yourself. And as I said, it does run really well under DC, so no problems there at all. And no problems in terms of any sort of derailment, issues with dirty track, issues with points and diamonds, nothing like that. And again, that's the exact same sort of performance I would have got from the Class 350 as well. Now we're going to rack the speed up here to the top speed. And this thing is a bit of a flyer, as again was the 350. Again, you hear that very distinctive rail clack that kind of comes from this, which is quite nice. We're running at the top speed as I configured on this decoder. It's not the highest speed. I could have gone higher on this decoder, as high as I went, which I think is probably reasonably prototypical. I think if I went beyond this it wouldn't be. And again, not a derailment at all in all of the sessions I had with this thing. This thing is really a very good runner. A couple of issues with the couplers, and I'll talk about that later on in the summary. A little bit fiddly, but once all those were sorted, there's absolutely no problems at all with the running. And the pretty good lights, the headlights, you'll see there that there's an illuminated station light. Waterloo is actually what appears in the front of it, and the actual cab lighting as well. And I have some still photographs of the cab lighting. I'll show those later on in the review. They are actually on here, but they're drowned out a little bit by the lights in the room. So some tips when deploying the 450 on your layout, and these same tips apply to the Class 350 as well. So if you are using DCC programming and you're using that on an isolated track, you really do need to complete all of the configuration and testing of your CVs on the power car before connecting to the rest of the train. If you do have an issue, then you're going to have to disconnect it, go back, reprogram, test again, etc. So try to complete all of the configuration with the power car on its own first, and that will save you a lot of hassle there. Test run all the cars individually around the bends, just make sure that there's no issues. I did have some issues with the 450. Now I never had any issues with the 350 in this regard, but there's a possibility maybe you could as well. So please do that, and just make sure that you don't have any issues with derailment or anything like that, any of the tolerance issues that I encountered when I was testing this out. Connect and test the cars, the A and B cars, and test those first. I did find a problem with the interconnection between those two, and I did have to swap around the little connector between the two, and that actually fixed the problem for me. So again, test those in isolation before connecting up to the rest of the train. A couple more tips here. When you are going to assemble the full 4-car unit, it really isn't possible to do that in the normal way that you would do it on a layout. So you actually do need to get some soft material, put it on the track, put the cars together on the track on top of the material. The cars essentially been upside down, connect them up together. You see a photograph of that there. This is a photograph with actually the 350, because the exact same thing applies here. And you can connect up the different interconnectors, make sure they're correctly connected, and you've got the connectivity, and then you can flip it over and replace it onto the track. And you need to do the same process in reverse when you're actually removing the train from your layout, so just keep that in mind as well. Make sure you connect the cars in the right order, so they are all lettered A to D, and so they do need to be connected in that A, B, C, D order, otherwise the lights won't work properly. And the last thing is, again, make sure that the connectors themselves between the cars, that they're installed correctly. There are metal contacts on those. They need to be facing upwards to make contact properly in the connector, and so just make sure that is done as well. Otherwise, again, you'll have a problem with the internal lighting. Okay, now it's time to look at a summary. So we're looking at the Bachmann 31041. This is a Class 450 4-car EMU with the running number 450127, and it's in the Southwest Trains livery. It comes out of the box 21-pin DCC ready, and the extra features are the directional lighting and the cabin coach lighting, and also the weathering which you get with the 31041. You can also get the 31040, which is unweathered in the pristine livery. The unboxed weight for the different cars, 157 grams for car A, 148 for B. Motorized car is 400 grams, and the last car is 157. So it's not the heaviest in the world, but that really isn't reflected in terms of the running performance, which is really, really good. The retail selling price is between £225 and £379.95, which was the original recommended retail price, and is pretty high, as you can see. So in terms of the scoring, the running performance, I'm giving it a 4.5 star, which is the same as the Class 350, and really it is a very good runner, very good performance over DC and DCC. The only thing it probably lacks, which is the half point, is probably the refinement of some of the diesels, the heavier diesels, and that's really the only reason for that half score. But it's a really good runner, no problems over points, diamonds, etc. Appearance and detail is 4.5 star, and again that's the same score as I would have given to the Class 350. I do have a preference actually for this particular livery over the one that I reviewed for the 350, but that's more of a personal point. But really the appearance is very good, and a good level of detail across the body and the undercarriage. And then under the extras you do get the added weathering, which I particularly liked on the 041. The other extras are obviously the interior lighting and the directional lighting as well. Price value, I'm giving a 4 star, and that's really for the discounted price, not for the recommended retail price, which I would only give a 2 star. So overall I'm giving a 4 star to this. Now the reason I'm giving a 4 star, which is actually half a point less than the Class 350, which I reviewed last year, I did find some issues with the coupling mechanisms. The coupling are separate to the bogies, and I'm not sure whether it's a manufacturing tolerance issue or not, but I did have to play around with swapping around the interconnectors because there seemed to be slight differences between them. I was getting clicking noises originally. I did have to take off the actual coupler on the rear of the train because it was actually catching the edges of the car. So there does seem to be some sort of a tolerance issue here. I didn't have any of those problems with the Class 350, and it's possible this has been manufactured, it's a different manufacturing run obviously, and maybe that has introduced some tolerance issues, and for that reason I am docking the point. Now there was nothing that stopped me here. I was able to resolve these things, but it did take me a couple of hours to do it. It was a bit frustrating. Some purchasers may actually end up returning the unit, so that's just something to watch out for. As I said, I didn't have those problems with the 350, but I did have those issues with this particular class. Once I got it up and running, no problems, but they were little problems and I wasn't happy with them, and they did take a little bit of time to resolve. So in general summary, it is an excellent runner under DC and DCC. It is very well detailed and a very attractive livery. The weathering is good. I think it's a very good compromise in terms of not being overdone and not being underdone, and it's one of the better out-of-the-box factory weathering jobs that I've seen. It's definitely worth considering, I think, at those discounted prices. And I just have that question mark: is there some sort of a manufacturing tolerance issues there with the coupling assemblies that may have caused a problem? However, my overall recommendation is I do recommend it. I think these are worth a look at these revised prices. If you are a fan of this class, then this is a good opportunity to perhaps pick these up at a pretty good price. And if you're a fan of the livery, absolutely, it's worth taking a look. Okay, that's the end of the main review. I am going to do a following section now, which is going to talk about the comparisons, the other comparisons against the Class 350 and the 450. So stay on if you want to catch that. Otherwise, thanks for watching today, and hope to see you on the next video. Okay, thanks for watching. So now I want to talk about the Class 450 and the Class 350 and what are the commonalities, what's different, what's the same, etc. So what's in common is they both have excellent running performance, and I think in both cases the visual appearance is also very, very good between these two. They're both 4-car EMUs obviously as well. The directional internal lighting is the same, and it's of an equivalent level between the two. They both share the challenge in terms of connecting, disconnecting the cars, so that whole process of having to put them onto the track, connect them up together, etc. So that process I outlined earlier. So they share that. They both have that issue. I suppose it's a bit of a challenge. In terms of the 350, the kind of pluses here really is the price. The 350 had a recommended retail price, which is roughly about £100 less than the 450, and as it was discounted itself, that price differential was maintained, so you could acquire the 350 somewhere in the 150, 160 range. I actually got mine a little bit less than that from Hatton's, so that was really, it has a price differential, there's no doubt about it. Now it is an older unit, and obviously there's some price erosion there over time as well, or price inflation I should say, so that may be coming into bear. I didn't have any issues with the coupling assemblies with the 350. I did get it pre-installed with DCC pre-installed, so if there were any issues that would have probably been picked up. Some of those may have been picked up by the technicians when they were doing the installation and testing. When I connected it together, I didn't have any problems with my Class 350. It does have a pantograph as well, which is opposable, which may be of interest to some people. People might like the idea of having that. Then what's different for the 450? Well, I think the overall weathering effect on the 450 is very effective. It does have a slightly greater degree of underbody detail as well, and that is enhanced with the weathering, and so hopefully you've got to see that. And it's got that third rail pickup, which you wouldn't have on the 350. So underbody wise and with the weathering effect, I think that gives a more realistic look to the 450. I also like the southwestern livery. I think that's it's very bright, distinctive livery, but I do quite like it, and I think it goes well with the weathering and the matted effect of the weathering. I think that is actually a good combination. I haven't actually seen up front the pristine version of this livery, so that may be a preference to some people, or people may not like that, so that it probably depends on your own personal preferences. So just showing the two of these guys running side by side. As I said, the running performance is really identical, so they're very similar. So when you start putting together the 450, it was having been familiar with the 350, it was very, very similar experience, and the running performance is the same. The only other difference is I did obviously get the DCC sound option on the 350. Now the sound effects are much the same between the two, so you could actually look at taking the sound off the 350, putting it onto the 450. So the 350 did have the benefit of that in the running sessions I had with it. With the 450 I didn't have the sound effect, but you can see that there is quite a natural sound that it gets, a clicking sound on the rails, which you do get with the 450 running it in DC only, with no actual sound coming from the unit, and that's actually quite pleasing. And so having sound is a nice extra, but it can be very expensive on these units. It can, extra sound on these Olivia's sound will cost you 130, 140 pounds extra, which I think is actually excessive for sound. So unfortunately there isn't really any cheap sound options for the 350 or the 450. So that's it. I mean, I think it comes down to personal preference. I think the two are very similar. I think if you can pick up the 450 at a good price, And keep in mind those little issues I had with the connectors, and just make sure you don't run into the same things. I think it's a very good offering if you do like the livery, if you're interested in it, if you do like the weathering, or if you don't and you just like the pristine livery. Either way, the running performance on this thing is the equivalent to the 350. There's no doubt they're the exact same. I'm sure the electronics and the mechanicals are the same. So that's really it. If you have a 350 or a 450, how have you found it? Have you run into some of those issues that I've encountered here? Please put those in the comments. It would be interesting to see if other people had similar problems. I'm still scratching my head as to why the 450 didn't sell as well, but I think a lot of that was down to the price. And I think at the reduced prices, if you can get something in the 220 to 260 range, I think that's a very good price for a detailed, good performing 4-car EMU. I think that's still a very good price for that, and I think it's certainly worth consideration. Okay, that's the final part of this review. I hope you found this last piece interesting, and hopefully see you on another review. As I'm interested in your comments. If you do own one of these and you have had different experiences with it, please put those in the comments. They're a benefit to obviously anybody looking at these videos as well. Okay, thanks for watching today, and see you on the next one. Okay, bye for now, and in the meantime, happy modeling.